we are in the 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid. This is a new version of the CX-50 for 2025, and it borrows Toyota's hybrid powertrain. So what you're getting here is basically a better handling RAV4. This has Toyota's 2.5-liter 4-cylinder that makes 219 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. This has 2 electric motors up front and then 1 on the rear axle, making it an all-wheel drive system. This is a different all-wheel drive system compared to the other CX-50s out there. And if you've driven a RAV4, this drivetrain is going to feel pretty similar. I mean, it is basically the same thing. However, this does retain those handling characteristics that the other CX-50s have. It's not exactly the same, but they did a really good job at making it feel almost the same. It's like a little bit different because there's weight in different spots, but most people probably won't notice that much of a difference. Now, other hybrid specific things, this CX-50 has a slightly smaller fuel tank than the normal CX-50. This has 55 liters. The regular CX-50 has 60 liters. So the 55 liters is exactly the same as the RAV4 hybrid. Towing capacity is also down in the CX-50 hybrid. It's 1,500 pounds of towing capacity, whereas you will get 2,000 pounds of towing capacity in the naturally aspirated one and 3,500 pounds in the turbo. Now, yes, this handles better than a RAV4. Vehicles in this class, you don't really talk about handling that much. However, the RAV4 is a little bit more of a better ride. It's a little more comfortable, and I don't know about the 2026 RAV4. Those have just come out and we haven't been able to drive them yet. But comparing this to a 2025 RAV4, that has independent rear suspension, takes the bumps a little bit better. This has a torsion beam in the back, so it is more sporty, but it does feel a little bit stiff over certain road surfaces.
So in both the US and Canada, there are 3 trims for the Mazda CX-50 Hybrid. This is the top level trim. This is the GT here in Canada. And in the US, it's called the Premium Plus. This goes for about $48,000 here in Canada, or about $40,000 in the US. And if you just want a base CX-50 Hybrid, it'll start at about 44K Canadian, or about 34K in the US. So when the CX-50 first came out, I was really interested in this vehicle. It's really good looking. Love the front end. It looks super aggressive. And I actually got to drive the CX-50 Turbo out in California for a couple days. Me and Mike from Accelerate actually shot some advertisements for Mazda USA. If you've ever seen the Accelerate YouTube channel, I used to be a part of that channel, and now I'm just kind of doing my own thing and he's doing his own thing. So with that turbo trim, I got a lot of time behind the wheel doing the Pacific Coast Highway in California, up and down canyon roads. This vehicle handles really, really well. Well, the turbo trim does. But I will say, spoiler alert, so does the hybrid. The hybrid also handles really well. Now, I've been genuinely interested in buying a CX-50 Turbo and trading my Mazda 3 in for one of these. However, my wife and I just bought a house, so we're not buying a car anytime soon. The Mazda 3's gotta last. But I would get the Turbo just because I really like the engine in my Mazda 3, and I have driven the CX-50 Turbo, as I've mentioned, and it is a lot of fun. Like, it's hard to say like it's a lot of fun. In this segment, it is. All right, so this color is called Ingot Blue Metallic, or Ingot Blue Metallic. I don't know. I even looked up how to pronounce it, and I've already forgotten. Anyways, it's a nice color. Very nice dark blue. The CX-50's always just been a very good-looking vehicle since it came out 2 or 3 years ago, I think 2023. Very aggressive front end. Love the look of this thing. You've got your turn signals down there at the bottom. Got a nice blacked-out grille. And then you have very, very bright headlights. These are great at night. They are adaptive, so they will move as you turn the steering wheel. And you'll probably get people high beaming you, thinking you have your high beams on. That seems to happen a lot in my own Mazda 3. Coming around to the side, you're gonna notice all this plastic rugged cladding. It's actually a lot larger on the hybrid, and there is a reason for that. It's because they actually had to raise the vehicle up so that they wouldn't lose any rear headroom in the second row, because the battery is right underneath the second row. So if you are building the CX-50 Hybrid on the Mazda Canada or Mazda USA website, you will notice that this does sit just slightly taller. So this Hybrid GT or Premium Plus comes with 19-inch rims. You'll get 20s with the turbo. They are a nice design. You do have a hybrid badge up here. Not the biggest fan of that badge. It's kind of lame looking. But then you do have blacked out mirrors and then blacked out trim. And then as you come to the back, it still looks really good. I think design language from every angle on the CX-50 is pretty solid. I really like the look of this vehicle. Love the tail lights back here. The turn signals do pulse when you turn them on. And you know what? This may be one of the very few hybrids that have dual exhaust pipes.
Most hybrids try to hide their exhaust pipes, but not Mazda. They're keeping it sporty. That does look like a lot of plastic cladding on the rear here though. You aren't gonna get that much on a turbo or just a naturally aspirated CX-50. So I'm not a huge fan of all of that plastic cladding. All right, so what do you think about the design on this Mazda CX-50 hybrid? Well, I threw out a poll, as I always do, on Instagram and YouTube, and we got 679 votes, and 90% of the votes that came in approve of the design on the CX-50. So just know if you're buying a CX-50, most people think your car looks good. So that's a nice thing to know. Now this does have a power tailgate, so we'll just open that up here and show you how much room there is. So it is a pretty deep cargo area, especially with the seats up still. Can fit quite a bit in there. I am actually going to try to fit a 9-foot carpet in this CX-50 tonight, so I will take a shot of that and see if it works. Really nice that they have these pull handles to bring the second row down. It is a 60-40 split, and Mazda does give you a spare tire under here. From what I understand, the CX-50 has a longer cargo area than the CX-5, but the CX-5 has more room for the rear passengers. So the CX-50 will give you 31 cubic feet of cargo area space behind the second row. And once you put the seats down, you get about 56, whereas the CX-5 will give you 29 behind the second row, and then about 58 with the seats down. All right, so here we are in the hybrid CX-50. Right off the bat, big changes between this and the other CX-50s is immediately going to be your gear shifter. The gear shifter is a different design. It almost looks like a Toyota gear shifter. It's not quite, but it almost looks like one. We do also have an EV button down here to force the vehicle into EV if it can. The other big difference will be this charge and power meter when you're driving. When you hit the brakes and you start regen braking, it will go into the purple zone and start charging. Other than those things, this is a normal CX-50, and that's a good thing. This is a beautiful looking steering wheel. Mazda steering wheels are looking really good right now. This is probably my favorite one. This in the Mazda 3 in the CX-30. It is a slightly different steering wheel in the CX-70 and the CX-90. Basically the same. Design's a little bit different at the bottom. But if you're looking at a CX-5, that's kind of on an older platform and their steering wheel's a little bit different and the Mazda logo is massive, whereas Mazda has gone with this smaller logo on their newer vehicles, and I think that looks a lot better. I would argue the CX-30 and the Mazda 3 looks a little bit better with the dash here. This is a little awkward looking to me. However, it is still a really nice interior, especially compared to other cars in this class. And like all Mazdas, we have practical physical buttons for our HVAC controls, for our cooled seats, for our heated seats, for a heated steering wheel. And the ventilated seats work pretty well. It's been absolutely hot the last 2 days, and I've really enjoyed having those this week. The heated steering wheel, like other Mazdas, it only gets hot about in this area. Nothing really goes on up here. So this is the upgraded 10.25 inch screen, and it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. It is a touchscreen when you are in Apple CarPlay, and I'm very used to this system because I own a Mazda 3, so I don't have any problems with it. However, if you do want to use it as a touchscreen, it is a bit of a reach. And I'm so used to not having a touchscreen in my Mazda 3 that I've just been using the rotary dial pretty much the whole week. This has the upgraded Bose audio sound system. I find this Bose audio sound system in pretty much every Mazda sounds really good. Now in this top level trim, we do have the 360 camera, and it is pretty nice. I have this a fairly similar system in my Mazda 3 and I love it. You can switch between two different views here, and then when you go into reverse, you do have the lines, and when you do put it into reverse, you get a beeping noise just to make sure that people can hear you backing up, because hybrids are quiet. It's the same noise you're going to hear in the CX-70 and the CX-90. So there is actually another change between this and the other CX-50s. We have different drive modes. So we have power mode, normal, and then trail mode. It used to be called off-road mode, but now they have switched it to trail mode. Essentially, power mode just adjusts your throttle response. There's nothing going on in terms of steering or suspension or any of that kind of stuff. So on your instrument cluster, you have 3 different views to choose from, essentially. A gauge, and then this one shows your fuel economy. And then this is good when you're on the highway, and it'll show you the vehicle in front of you and how close you are for your adaptive cruise. Now, if you're wondering about your adaptive cruise, all those buttons are right here. You can adjust how close and how far you are to the vehicle. And then you do have your lane keep right here, and it works pretty well on the highway. Other notable things, we've got some storage up front here. We've got 2 cup holders. We've got piano black. Unfortunately, just like my car, it scratches really easy. I would definitely put a protective layer of film or something on that when you buy the vehicle immediately. Then we do have a wireless charger down here. It does really heat up your phone, I've noticed throughout the week. So I haven't really been using it. I just kind of plug in with a USB-C. And if you're looking for those USB-Cs, they are in your center console, which has 2 panels to open up, and it's decently deep down there. So the driver's seat does have lumbar support. The passenger seat here does not, but you can raise it up and move it back and forward. I find these seats, they look good, and like all Mazda seats, they run on the firm side. So my back tends to get a little bit sore on long drives with these, but they do look nice, and some people really love them, so that's just a personal opinion. We do have 2 memory seats in here and automatic windows on all 4 windows, so you don't have to actually hold the button. You just press them and they all go up. So in the back, we've got a really nice panoramic roof, heated seats in the back seats, and then we do have ventilation back there, which is also key. I do have enough room for my legs. I am not touching the seat there, and I do have the passenger seat back quite a bit. Headroom is okay. I'm about 5'10", but I feel like my head was almost touching. Here we are out in the beautiful countryside. This is supposed to be one of the hottest days of the summer, or at least so far. It's supposed to feel like 45 degrees Celsius, which for my American viewers is about 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, Canada does get hot. This part of Ontario is actually farther south than many areas in the US. London is just about 2 hours from Detroit and about 2 hours from Toronto, so we're like right in the middle. Now, due to the current political environment and the tariffs between Canada and the US, Mazda has actually decided to halt shipping CX-50s to Canada. Now, the CX-50 is built in Alabama. Unfortunately for us Canadians, the only CX-50s we can buy are whatever is left on the lot. As of June right now, that is the situation. So if you're looking at a CX-50 in Canada, it may be hard to get one at the moment. So the CX-50 really stands out from the competition in regards to styling, but also with handling. This thing takes corners very, very well. Very good body control. Other vehicles like the RAV4, the Subaru Forester, they'll feel a little floaty and they won't handle their body mass as well around corners. Now you can also argue, why does that matter in a family crossover? It probably doesn't. And the CX-50 is not an uncomfortable vehicle by any means. It's just a little bit stiffer, and that torsion beam doesn't always handle certain road surfaces as well as a vehicle would with independent rear suspension. This steering is absolutely incredible when you're taking turns. In a parking lot, it's a different story. It's very heavy, so some people may not like that. Whereas something like a RAV4, it's just very light and easy to maneuver around in tight spots. Now, as of 2024, for all CX-50 trims, the steering and suspension has been revised, so it does ride better than from when it initially launched. Now, a big difference if you're stepping out of a Mazda 3 and jumping right into a CX-50, you'll notice the visibility is better. There is no crazy blind spot at the back like in my Mazda 3 hatchback. Not that it's ever been that much of an issue, but just know that it's got pretty good visibility in here. All right, so let's talk about fuel economy. As of right now, for the last 100 kilometers that I've been driving this, getting 6.8 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's been pretty much how it has been throughout the whole week. I did reset this by accident. Pretty decent fuel economy. When you buy the turbo, that thing is not fuel efficient. Does kind of chug just like my Mazda 3 does. My Mazda 3 turbo gets about 9 liters per 100 kilometers. So when you're thinking you're in a much bigger vehicle here and getting about 6 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers, this is pretty good. It's pretty on par with the RAV4 Hybrid. The RAV4 Hybrid gets slightly better fuel economy, but it's so insignificant that it wouldn't deter me from buying one or the other. I believe Mazda says this should get combined 6.1 liters per 100 kilometers, whereas Toyota says the RAV4 should get 5.9 or 5.8. So in terms of quietness in here, it's a very well insulated vehicle at this price point. Pretty quiet. Everything seems pretty solid inside the interior here. No major rattles, or no rattles at all really that I've heard. Similar to the RAV4, the transition from battery to engine is fairly smooth. It's not abrupt or jittery. Okay, so I have the lane keep on here and I want to see how it handles the bend in the road. So I've got adaptive cruise control on, going about 80 kilometers an hour. We are going through the turn here. It's doing a pretty good job. Line, we lost the line. How will it do? Yeah, it's doing pretty good. Yeah, pretty good lane keep assist system. It's not like Hyundai and Kia or Honda where you can use it without having cruise control on. You do have to have cruise control on to make this work. In conclusion, this is actually a pretty good package. You get Mazda styling and handling paired with Toyota's reliability. This powertrain has been around a while and has proven to be fairly reliable. My biggest nitpick would just be the heavy amount of plastic cladding around the vehicle. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and getting to the end of this video. That means a lot to me. Next week, we have an absolutely awesome vehicle. I can't wait to drive it. I will give you a little tease right here. Anyways, if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.